And John, how's it going, man? Welcome back for episode 2.
Episode 2, Season 2. Good to be here. My name is John Marciniak. I am a senior solutions architect at AWS. I am sitting in Chicago, where it is pitch black outside. The sun is just setting really early. That's all I got.
It's setting so early, but it's not gonna be like that for too long because we're on the northern hemisphere. So everyone on the southern hemisphere, I think it's like longer days now. It's summer for them. So hey, everyone who's watching live, let us know where you're joining from or where you're watching from, and we'll pull a couple of those comments up on screen because we can see them all coming through. But a question for all of our friends before we really jump in: did you watch last week's AWS Power Hour episode? You can type 1 in the chat for yes or 2 for not yet. And we say not yet because, yeah, they're all recorded. So if you missed part of last week, you can go back and watch it. If you missed part of today, you can go back and watch it. That doesn't give you permission to leave, so please stay. We don't have polls, but we can see the comments coming up. Jeff Kerwin, one of our chat moderators watching over on Twitch, coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. And then Create the Imaginable said 2, so not yet. So we do see, and this is on YouTube. Oh, you know what? Should we actually throw another question out there for all of our friends?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Last week's episode went live on 4 different channels, and so did today's, or so is today's, and next week and the week after also. So we are on LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Let us know in the chat which platform you watched the stream on. Was it LinkedIn? Was it Twitch? Was it YouTube? Was it Facebook? Because I saw a few people last week that went from one channel over to the other. So I'm wondering who is, hold on, Sam. What does 5 mean?
Ooh. Is that like 3 plus 2?
Maybe. Is it 1 plus 4?
Plus 1?
I know, all the maths. LinkedIn user says on LinkedIn. That's so... Okay, Create the Imaginable, that does check because 0 means none of them, but you can go watch it. Join for the first time. Hey, Sam. That's what it means. 5, didn't watch it. Join for the first time. We got an answer.
Like it. There we go.
Like it. LinkedIn from Nema. Jane says LinkedIn. Mercedes says LinkedIn. Honest Hacker says 0, so probably didn't watch last week. But that's all good, everyone. That's all good. Okay, cool. So this week we're going to cover domain 2 because last week we covered domain 1 of the AWS Certified AI Practitioner Exam Guide. John, I see you had that pulled up. Should we start talking all about that domain?
Oh yeah, let's do it. I was going to actually start here though. You want me to pull this up first?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to like show people where they can get the information, where they can get the link, right? So all of our friends who are watching live, we do have chat moderators. Like I pulled up Jeff. We have Paul and Dalian.
Yeah. So as you can see on my screen, and our chat moderators are going to put this in the various places where you're watching, 1 through 4. This is the AWS Certified AI Practitioner homepage. You can get to it by internet searching or using the link. This has everything you need to know about taking the exam. It's got, the different categories that we have. This one is a foundational exam. It is 90 minutes long. It is 65 questions. It has other information about the cost, but the most important thing is how do I prepare? How do I get to know the exam? And we have a 4-step plan to get to know the exam. Loose rhyme there.
I did hear that.
you can click this to go into AWS Skill Builder, which is loading on my dark profile right now.
Hey, I like that. Actually, if you go back to the first tab, because that's the 4-step plan.
Yep.
And if you scroll up just a little bit for me, because there's a question in the chat that I want to answer. And you see where it says like AI Practitioner Foundational, there's like the badge that has like the cool thing that everyone works toward. That does not have the beta logo on it anymore. So Create the Imaginable, is the cert test still beta? No, it's not. But John is highlighting something. John, do you want to cover what that is?
Looks like that if you earn this certification by February 15th, that is the day after Valentine's Day.
That's
you
next
can,
Saturday. That's this Saturday.
yeah, you can earn the early adopter badge. You still have time. You can book it for tomorrow. And then if you need to retake it, you still have 4 more days after that.
I challenge all of you, every single person, to book it when you're ready, but try to book it for tomorrow.
Book it on Valentine's Day.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing says love than taking the AI practitioner exam
Right.
with your significant other.
And then enjoy some chocolate.
There you go.
Yeah. With pass or not pass, enjoy some chocolate.
Either way.
Some generative AI chocolate.
No, man, real chocolate.
Can create images of chocolate. All right. What are we doing here? We're going to talk about the exam guide.
Domain 2.
Okay, domain 2. So another link here. Review the exam guide. If you click that, that'll open this. And if you zoom in, you can read it better.
Are you asking them to zoom in, or are you speaking out loud to yourself?
It's commands for all, including myself. But this gives you basically everything that you'll need to know about what you'll need to know for the exam. The different domains, we're covering each of these. Last week we covered domain 1. Go back and watch that episode. It was a great episode. This week we're going to cover domain 2, which is fundamentals of generative AI. Hence all the Gen AI jokes that we're already talking about, more to come.
Hey,
and this,
you said last week was a fun episode. It was the best episode I've ever had. You want to know why? Because the 2 of you were there.
Yep. It was the highlight so far of my life.
Hey,
this episode is going to be worth 24%.
Dewan, jump in.
Jump in.
Jump in where?
You said, hey. You're like,
I think you're hallucinating.
Oh.
Okay. Are we going to talk about hallucinations later?
I'm glad you stopped me for that. So domain 2 is going to cover 24% of the exam content. That's roughly a quarter, because a quarter is 25%. We still have 28% here for our domain 3. That'll be next week. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be my favorite episode of the series, I think, besides this one and the one before. We already talked about domain 1, so we're going to scroll on over to domain 2, where we have 3 task statements that we're going to be talking about. So most important things here, task statement 2.1, explain the basic concepts of generative AI. So we need to understand, what's that?
I said, yeah, basic.
Ooh, okay. Yep. Ooh. So all the basics, I'm not going to react to that. So, foundational Gen AI concepts, things like tokens, chunking, vectors, transformer-based LLMs, foundation models, multimodal models, and diffusion models. Duan, what's a diffusion model?
A diffusion model is all about images.
There we go.
Like stable diffusion, where they take all these pixels, mesh them up, and then generate an image based on those pixels.
Yep. So we've got that. We've got just identifying, what are the good use cases for generative AI models? What kind of things are they most used for these days? And then the entire life cycle. So, how do we choose the right model? How do we do pre-training, fine-tuning? These are all, of course, technical terms that we will discuss. Task statement 2. So understand the capabilities and limitations of generative AI for solving business problems. Right. So the tech is fun, but how can we actually apply it to, adding value to my business? Which is probably what every C-level C-level person in every company is trying to answer right now, and that's what we're gonna tackle in task statement 2.
I think this is an important section when you talk about the capabilities and limitations, because a lot of times when people hear about generative AI, they want to use it because it's highly capable to do a lot of things. But domain 1 actually covers some of the traditional AI and ML. And I think it's important to be able to separate the two to know which use case is good for traditional machine learning and which use case is best for generative AI. And I think this exam kind of gives you that high level overview.
Duan, you nailed it, because I talked to a lot of different customers. Everybody, especially the past year, everybody's been buzzing over this Gen AI stuff. And there's so many use cases where I'm like, yeah, you could use generative AI in this, but I mean, it's really just plain old-fashioned machine learning that is going to be your best fit for some of these things. And I think differentiating those two, well said there.
Yeah, that's why, to me, the AI practitioner certification is really giving people a heads up and a head start on AI and machine learning. But then the next step traditionally is for people to start focusing on machine learning. So actually in the cert path that AWS offers, I'll see if I can get a link pulled up here soon, but there's the AI practitioner, cloud practitioner certification, then machine learning engineer associate, and you eventually get all the way up to the machine learning specialty. So give me 30 seconds. I'll see if I can bring up that cert path page.
Cool. We have one more task statement here. We have task statement 2.3. Describe AWS infrastructure and technologies for building generative AI applications. So we've got a couple different objectives here. And this is everything that has to do with building generative AI on AWS. So this is going to be talking a lot about Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock. This is going to be talking about Amazon Q and Amazon PartyRock, which are the major three kind of technologies, as well as SageMaker and Jumpstart. Other more classical kind of AWS tools that you can do traditional machine learning on, as well as generative AI. So this is really kind of getting into the technical areas of where you can use generative AI within AWS. And that's it for domain 2.
I got the cert pass pulled up. So thanks for covering domain 2. We have a poll question for everyone here coming up soon, but I do want to keep my promise. I'm going to show everyone the cert paths because you're here studying, you're watching today's episode. You hopefully watched last week's episode, and you're going to watch the next 2 episodes, all 4, because you're studying for this one right here. And I said it backwards just a few minutes ago. So it's cloud practitioner, then AI practitioner, and then kind of choose your own adventure after that. But if we go all the way down to the generative AI and machine learning, or AI ML, there's prompt engineer, which you're in the right spot because Duan, are we doing prompt engineering today?
Yes, we're going to cover some prompts.
Word.
Promptly.
Promptly. I know. I'm gonna cover this in 10 seconds here. Machine learning engineer, machine learning ops engineer, data scientist. But you can see the prompt engineer, even the foundational of these 4. Cloud practitioner, AI practitioner, machine learning engineer associate, then the specialty. But they all have some kind of machine learning engineer and then machine learning specialty. And going down here, you can see the solutions architect associate is mentioned also across 3 of them. So that could be a good path for people to consider after they have their AI practitioner. Now, I mentioned the poll, so let's go ahead and bring that up. Duan, this one's yours.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in with us today. The question we have for you is, what is generative AI? In the chat, enter a 1 for a type of software that only edits existing content. Enter a 2 for an AI system that creates new content based on patterns learned from training data. Enter a 3 for a database management system that stores information. Or 4 for a computer network that connects multiple devices or nodes.
I have no idea. Can we answer the question with generative AI? I see a couple 2s coming through. So Greg thinks 2. Chandu thinks 2. LinkedIn user says, I have no idea. Jeff says, ooh, I know. Pick me. You got to throw a number in the chat. Do it. Dalian says 2.
Okay.
Tony. Okay, Jeff did throw a 2. It seems like everyone's saying 2. What do you think? Should we show them?
Yes, let's show them the correct answer.
Correct answer is 2.
Allow me.
Why is 2 the correct answer, Dewan?
2 is the correct answer, which I'll explain here in a moment, because generative AI is all about a subset of machine learning. You're taking data, a large corpus of data, let's say all of the data on the internet, and you're allowing a model to learn about that data. And we'll kind of dive into some more, but that data allows it to generate new things like text, images, videos, which music as well. And I've made some pretty cool music. My son's probably made the coolest music. Yeah, I really like where we are right now in the world.
Your son makes music?
Yes, my
I
son.
know I know you did like music production for a little while, but I didn't know your son's into it now. That's cool.
Yeah, generative AI has enabled him to have these ideas, and now he can generate it
Yeah.
really quickly.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the AWS Deep Composer?
No, tell me about that.
Oh, it was an AI service that actually came as a physical keyboard. It was machine learning powered, where you could make music with like an actual MIDI keyboard.
Oh wow, do we still have that?
You depending on where you look for it, you can find it.
I'm
We'll talk
coming.
more about it later.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
All right. I'm excited to hear your son's generative AI powered music. So hopefully that'll be in the future. But should we maybe bring up a couple slides I believe you have to help us further dive deeper into what generative AI is before we jump into a demo?
Yes, I'm gonna get through this really quick because we already kind of talked about what generative AI is. And if I get to my slide, basically, generative AI is a subset of deep learning. It allows you to take a large corpus of data. I mentioned all of the data on the internet, and then be able to predict how to answer a question, right? So if we ask a large language model, which is a foundation model, you have these base models that are trained. You ask it, what is generative AI? Well, when it first is trained, it kind of has an understanding, but there needs to be another step. And that's going to be some post training to make it like your chatbot assistance. And we'll kind of go through that here in a moment. But basically, when we're looking at something like a chat GPT or Claude or some other large language model that is a helpful assistant, it's able to do things like summarize this study of words or blogs or sentences into, let's say, 50 words. And so then you'll get a summary of that text. It can even do things like translate different languages, let's say English to Spanish, and it translates some language, some text into Spanish. And the reason why it's able to do this is because all of the data that is learned on the internet, it learned traits about these words. It's taking what you call embeddings or tokens. Tokens are kind of different, but it's basically taking tokens that you pass into the model, and then it's taking those tokens and converting them into numbers, which are the tokens that allows you to say, okay, generative AI is related to machine learning, and it has a probability of how related these things are. So when you ask it a question, it's taking that probability and being able to take each token and generate a new token that answers your questions. And so you can do this with any type of data. I mentioned text is one. Another one is you can ask it to say, okay, I want a monster wearing the AI hoodie. And you get a monster wearing the AI hoodie. These are some of the cool things that you can do. And it's been really great to see this evolve over the last, I would say, 2.5 years almost, right? 2022, was it 20 January 2022 when
Yeah.
ChatGPT was announced?
Yeah.
And everything just kind of took off. And since then, yeah, it's been really great to be a part of AWS and watch things evolve. Now, I mentioned that when it comes to generative AI, it is a subset of machine learning or deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. So all of these kind of play together or tie together to say, okay, back in the 50s, we were doing artificial intelligence. This has been around a long time and it's progressed. I think deep learning came around in around 2010 with Google doing all the cool things they done around AlphaGo And then again, Google producing the white paper on attention is all you need, which introduced the transformer model to say, okay, now we can take data in or tokens in and generate something new, so that you have the encoding and decoding that happens within the transformer. Now, I mentioned traditional machine learning models. If you watch this in domain 1, I highly suggest go back and check that out. But basically, with traditional machine learning models, you'll take data and you will label this data to say, okay, I want to predict the housing prices in this specific area. Well, you're going to label this data and say, okay, here are the housing prices, here are the locations. You pass this into a model, you train, and it learns about the different prices, the time, and all of these data points that are related to predicting a house price. And then from there, it's able to predict a house price. But that traditional machine learning model will have that one particular task. So you could do this previously with text generation. You could train a model to do summarization. You could train a model to do all of these things with traditional machine learning.
Hey, Duan, I'm sorry. I just realized John sent me a private message. Apparently, I was smashing the keyboard and typing over here. So I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry to everyone watching. I'm just, you know what?
You were beating that keyboard like you mixed lunch. I'm just saying.
I was over here chopping, man. I was beating that keyboard like your son's making generative AI music, those beats, and like Greg is like, it's impressive what AI can do with music. And I'm actually over here like chatting with John around like when we can bring up this comment, this one right here.
It's the truth. We are super super excited for Evandro, who recently got their certification. So let's all clap.
You don't
for
sound
Evandro.
very excited. Can you try that again?
I'm super pumped, as I can be at 7 p.m.
Let's try this again. Evandro, you got this, man. It's on Saturday. You can do it. Hey, everyone watching live, say congratulations, early congrats to Evandro, or good luck, or whatever you want to say. Thumbs up, clap emoji, ta-da, party hat. I have no idea. That's excitement.
How about PartyRock?
I almost muted you again.
Oh, you know what? Fine. All right, back to generative AI, and I'm going to make sure I'm actually on mute this time because I even see our producer is like, who is typing?
All right, so we're almost done where we're actually going to do some cool things here in a moment, but I want to talk about 2 more things. The first thing is we talked about traditional machine learning. When it comes to generative AI, you have what you call unlabeled data. I mentioned that large corpus of data, meaning all of the data from the internet. There are a bunch of models, or I would say data sets, that are out there that kind of show you the scale of this data, but this is a lot of data that has not been labeled. You pre-train the model to say, okay, here's my data. I want you to learn about it. So you let a model just kind of learn about that data. And then when it learns about these data, it kind of has a visualization of the world in the form of documents. And so if you ask it a question, it'll be able to answer your question that looks like it should be an answer. But in order for it to actually do it properly, there needs to be some type of post-training to say, okay, when you ask this question, here's how you should answer. So when you're going through training a model, this is a step of different phases. Let's say pre-training. Well, first, you're going to have your data, right? You take your data, you clean your data, you sanitize your data, and then you pre-train your model so it can learn about that. And then after that, you have some sort of post-training so your model can be like a helpful assistant. But there can be other things as well, because it can generate images, but you have to have some type of guidance for the model to be able to answer properly with another form of training. So that's pretty much generative AI in a nutshell. But to actually see it in action, we're going to turn it over to John, because he has a really cool tool that everyone could dive in and get started with now.
Before we jump into that, let me highlight this comment real quick, because I think it's a really great call out. That housing example is perfect for making the point of having good unbiased data. And that's true, because if you train your model, like the comment here says, then you're going to teach your model, you're going to train your model around what that higher price point could look like. So you want to have a range of acceptable data, and then you want to train your data. Go watch last week's episode, because Duan talks about training the data and then testing your data also.
Amazing. Cool. So
I think off mute.
Yeah, we heard you.
Do I know
Heard you
how
loud
to
and
mute?
clear. It was good. It was good. I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about PartyRock, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about PartyRock. Okay, let me give the pitch. Let me give the PartyRock pitch.
Party
You ready?
rockers in the house tonight.
There we go. Let's not sing it too long because then we gotta like pay money.
DMCA, I know.
Yeah.
Some generative feel.
Let's talk about PartyRock. So it's an interesting tool from AWS that is changing how people learn and experiment with AI. If you ever wanted to understand how AI applications work, or if you wanted to create your own, but felt overwhelmed by the technical requirements, this might interest you. At its core, PartyRock is a learning platform where you can experiment with AI without writing code. Think of it like a digital sandbox where you can play with different AI capabilities, text generation, image creation, chatbots, all through a visual interface. What makes this
Wow,
particular...
that sales pitch is like on point.
Thank you. What makes this particularly interesting for learners is that you can see how AI models work in real time. For example, if you're curious about how large language models respond to different types of prompts, you can quickly set up experiments and test your ideas. Want to understand how quickly changing parameters affects AI output? You can adjust settings and immediately see the results. The platform includes pre-built templates that serve as great learning examples. By examining these templates, you can understand common AI applications and how different components work together. It's a lot like having a collection of working examples that you can take apart and modify and learn from. Start building today. So if that
Wow,
sounded
that's what it says
like...
on the screen. I
So
don't know.
that
Did
sounded like
you use generative AI to like write that script?
How did you... Oh, you stole my thunder. I used PartyRock to create that script.
Nice.
How about that?
Okay. Here's the comment of like Benjamin wants to know, does AWS have agents platform? Benjamin, are you asking if John is an agent right now? Because I agree, like that he's an agent for PartyRock. Like he is advocating for that. He's more of an advocate for PartyRock than I think Juwan and I have been all day today so far.
We don't just have agents; we have multi-agents.
Ooh. Okay. We'll have to explain that one, I think. So, unbeknownst to the production team or my two co-hosts, I created an app to help me talk about PartyRock in PartyRock. So this is kind of a meta PartyRock app about PartyRock that I created to create a compelling 5-minute script about PartyRock and its features. So let me actually start. Let me start a step back. So when you go to partyrock.aws and you log in, you can start for free. And once you start, I'm already logged in. It's just basically saying, what kind of app do you want to build? And you can put anything. I obviously put, a 5-minute compelling script about PartyRock. And then this is what it gave me. It gave me, I don't know why my scroll isn't working. There it is. It wanted me to input a few things. So, the main value proposition. So I put in some of the main value props of PartyRock. The key features has all these key features where you can use templates, you can use pre-built templates for, different use cases, customizable layouts, which we'll see, which you can see here. You can actually change how some of the formats are and how how your app looks. And then your target audience.
Fancy.
So
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. So anyways, then it generated a script for me. And then I was able to actually refine the script through a chat. So I was like, okay, that was a really nice script, but I want it to be a little bit more focused for a learning platform. And then it refined the script for me. So that was a little bit about what you just saw me do. Here's the generated script. It's a little bit salesy, so I asked it in the chat here, please, much less like a sales pitch. It's for learning purposes. And this was the script that I just delivered to you. So that's a little bit about PartyRock. Do you want to create a new PartyRock app? Do we have time for that?
Yes, let's ask the
I,
audience.
I do, but also I want to throw this poll up because I feel like it's in the same spot in the. Thank you.
Yes.
What is PartyRock in the context of AWS generative AI services? And while we're waiting for people to answer this, also let us know if you want John to go through and build a PartyRock app with you. So type 1, 2, 3, or 4. Is it a security service? Is it a database service? Is it a playground for Amazon Bedrock? Or is it a networking tool? Duan, why do I feel like you would really love if 4 was correct?
When I first used PartyRock, I actually built it for networking to analyze ACLs and network access control lists.
Nice.
So I read that. That's really cool. I read it as like networking, like people networking. Like, how am I gonna introduce myself to this person and find out what they do?
Yeah.
You see, Duan, he's being more of an advocate than we are right now. He's thinking person networking, people networking, like growing connections.
It's all just ones and zeros.
I also said that I was viewing on LinkedIn and not YouTube because I'm more about the networking.
That's true. That's true. So speaking of like LinkedIn, 4, but some people were thinking 3. Again, LinkedIn 4. Let's go with 3. 3, and Greg says 3, which Greg says, hold on, I think I saw it. They're taking their AI practitioner next on Friday.
Nice.
Good luck. You got this. Hey, everyone watching live, tell Greg you got this. Go ahead and type you got this in the chat.
You got this,
you got
Greg.
this.
All right. What's the correct answer? Correct answer is boom, 3. Let's hide that comment. Okay.
I think the audience should suggest the app you built, John.
Ooh, yeah. Do we have a suggestion here?
Yes.
I don't see one. Which one?
What should we build? What should John build in PartyRock? Any suggestions? Drop them in the chat.
Drop them in the chat.
Drop them in the chat. There's going to be a delay before we even see that.
Yeah.
I did see AI Inception, but I think Greg is talking about when John built the script about PartyRock using PartyRock, and that's pretty cool. I did see Jeff said earlier, made an application using PartyRock that recommends artists or songs to listen to, and it's been great. So I'd say if we don't see anything in the next like 5 seconds, let's do that one.
So
we also, let me add this back. We also have some example prompts here that we can kind of take a look at. So like, and this will help you at home with some of your ideas too.
Sock puppet ideas. I love that.
Sock puppet ideas. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What should I write here?
Well, let's take a look at the examples to inspire us around like what a good prompt could look like, right? Because these examples are already built out. They're pre-baked for us to give us like that creative juice is flowing. So we can take a look at what these might see. Yeah. So running route generator. No, that's not fun. Why'd you click on it?
Well, it's just going to populate the text box.
But I don't want that.
Okay. Well, you were saying you wanted to see examples.
I don't want to talk about running though.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, you're hovering over it again. You're giving me anxiety. Justin Bieber's haircuts on Aaron. Okay, 2 votes for sock puppet. All right. So you're a time traveler. When provided the date, give me the most significant news story that happened on the given date, along with key details and context. The response should be factual, objective, and concise. Generate an image that visually depicts the key elements and events of the news story.
The visual should represent a news anchor who is a sock puppet.
In the voice of Will Ferrell.
In the voice and styling of William. What's his middle initial? Do we know?
I have no idea.
I wanted to be really. How do you spell? Is it like that?
Sure. Yeah.
It'll know.
Yeah,
it knows what I mean.
It knows. It's generative AI.
Now we got to choose the hats.
Are you human?
It would have been socks. It should have been socks. It
I feel like these are all hats. I can wear any of these as hats. This bag could be a hat if you put it on your head.
Yes.
Am I the only one that thinks these things?
Confirm. Are you human?
Did y'all watch the big game?
I think these are human thoughts.
I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Sock Hop Time Travels is
Sock
the name of the app.
Date input. Okay, it's waiting for a date input because we didn't give it yet.
Yeah, so this is what it does. It kind of tells you all the things that it's thinking on, like the inputs it needs.
Nice. It's reasonable.
Okay, let's go ahead and put in a date.
December 31st, 1999.
How about February 29th?
Do you know all the years that has a leap year?
Yes.
That's very specific. How?
What's every 4 years?
Every 4
years. When was the last one? I don't remember that.
Any U.S. election year.
Wait, what?
Last year was a leap year?
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I could be wrong here. I'm feeling really weird now.
Hey, internet, fact checked us, please. When are the leap years?
Leap year finder.
Leap years are divisible by 4, with the exception of century years are not divisible by 400. The next leap year is 2024, so that's last year.
Yeah. 20. Okay, well, it's already starting to do it without me. So you said 2020 what, Aaron? Help me.
2020. I said 2024, but 2020 is fine because I think like with generative AI, based on the model it's trained, it only has a certain like recall, right?
So I think it's supposed to go in the future, right? As a time travel.
Oh, right. Okay. 28.
26.
February 29th.
Oh. I'm going to start my own show.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I want to travel back to 2020. I don't know. 2020 was a good year for me.
Okay. I thought this was supposed to go in the future.
Did it say future? Oh, yeah. As a date in the future.
Maybe it didn't. Okay. We'll go February 2020.
2016.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I know. Mind reading over here.
Okay, so this is one of the biggest stories of February 29th, 2016. Real talk. I know exactly where I was on this date. I was at a wedding.
February 29th, 2016.
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
And well, it's a notable wedding. It was on a leap year.
Well, belated congrats to them. Very belated, but still.
Cool.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm gonna digress for a second, more than I already have. Have they had 2 wedding anniversaries, or have they had 8?
I will have to get back to you on that. I will have to get back to you on that, Aaron.
That's your homework for episode 2.
Okay, that's my home fun. It's not called homework.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So do you get in 4 times as much trouble if you forget?
Oh my gosh.
I think if we carry the 1 properly, it's 400 times.
Okay. We are here to talk about PartyRock, and I'm going to keep the show moving by talking about this historical news story from February 29th, 2016. And
I don't see any chatter from our producer, so I think we have full reign to just walk all over John right now. Oh, who took John away? No. Okay. John. Yes. John, you have the room.
Okay, cool. Okay, so welcome to the John Show. I'm really happy to be talking about PartyRock today. And we're going to be talking about this historical news story where Leonardo DiCaprio has finally won his first Academy Award for Best Actor in The Revenant. This is not a time travel bot at all. This actually happened. I remember this. It was a big moment. After 6 nominations spanning 2 decades, his victory ended one of Hollywood's most talked about Oscar droughts. Good for him. And here's Will Ferrell. This kind of looks like that one MTV show.
Yeah, it does.
No, it kind of does. But you know what it looks like? There's this guy on TikTok that like raps the weather. Have you seen him?
Nope.
I'm not on TikTok.
Okay. Well, he might be on Instagram too. Anyway, okay.
Then one of my favorite things here is that you can actually kind of talk about this event with a chatbot. So, any follow-up questions that you have about this huge historical event that happened in
Yeah,
2016.
It's not a sock.
It
Actually,
is not a sock puppet.
yeah. What is going on here?
Yeah.
Yo,
Yeah. This
Sock
is
Farrell. His name is Sock Farrell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a sock puppet, but his name is Sock Farrell. So that's what happened.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a case of, we're going to talk about this in a minute about, prompt engineering. And I think this is probably a good segue to that on why this didn't work. So
Duan,
we might have a question. If we do, we'll pull it up. And then if not, let's get right into the lab so we can talk about prompt engineering and everything else.
There it is. Prompt engineering is the process of optimizing infrastructure for AI model deployment. True or false? That's also a question for all of our friends watching live. Question for Duan and John. Is it true or false? And why?
John.
What was the question?
The one on the screen. It's more like it's not even a question, it's like a statement. Prompt engineering is the process of optimizing infrastructure for AI model deployment.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure
Why?
about that one.
Optimizing infrastructure, I think, is what I'm pulling out, right?
Yeah.
So
That's the part that's making me do the dog emoji.
Okay. Prompts are not infrastructure. Prompts are words. Yeah. So the correct answer is false.
False.
So everyone, true or false is correct. True or false is true.
Yeah.
Duan, what is prompt engineering? Now that we know it's not optimizing infrastructure.
Let's talk about it. Okay. Prompt engineering. Well, I have slides if they work. When you communicate with a large language model or a foundation model in the form of a user or human, you ask it questions. You ask it to perform tasks. And when you ask those questions, you're sending that question or that task in the form of a prompt. Well, in order to get effective responses from your foundation models, you sometimes need to optimize that prompt. In the process of optimizing those prompts to get the most effective outputs from your models or the most effective performance from your models is prompt engineering. And so here we have a human, an assistant, a developer asking the model to perform a task, and we're getting an output from the foundation model. Now, when we are configuring our prompts, there are some key things we need to think about. First, we need to have a clear set of instruction, meaning that I want you to write a summary of a new service new service review using 2 sentences, right? So this is the instructions that we're giving to the model. Now, if we just send that to the model, it may respond, right? But when it does that, it may not reference the information or review the information that we want. So it may make something up.
I feel like we just saw that happen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Seems pretty familiar.
And that's called hallucination, right? That's not a bad thing for a model. The model knows a lot of things. It's trying to be helpful because it was trying to be a helpful assistant, right? But in order to help the model perform the task accurately, we need to provide something called context. And here we have the context to say you are a store, an online store for shipping. Now, we also need to say, here's the information I want you to review, right? So we provide that as well in our prompt. And so this is the process of creating a prompt in order for the model to review a service. Now, that sounds really simple. And prompting is getting, I would say, In the beginning, prompting was one of those things you had to pay a lot of attention to because you can get so many random responses. But models have been trained or improved or optimized to the point to where they're kind of getting better at understanding what you mean, your intent in performing a response if it's off general knowledge that it has in the model. But if you want to get the best performance from a model, here are some effective design designing of your prompts guidelines that we should have, some best practices. The first thing is to be clear and concise. I know sometimes I could talk a lot and I could speak about a lot of useful information when I speak, but sometimes writing prompts has made me, I would say, improve and get straight to the point when I'm asking the model to perform something. Be concise. What do you want it to do? Remove the fluff. The next thing, and I mentioned this before, is provide context. You want to ensure that you speak to the model and give it everything it needs to perform that task. So that way you can be helpful for your helpful assistants. Use directive, step 1, step 2, step 3. Let it kind of think to help perform the task in the order, because what you have to understand about a foundation model or any model that you're using is that they're a next token prediction. So the more that you can help it think through in the actual steps, the better the performance will be on the outputs of the next tokens that it generates. These are a lot of key points. And if you can, feel free to take a screenshot of this. John is going to hop into the console. I don't want to take too much time, but before he does, I want to give you a prompt and let you kind of decide what's the best prompt that we had to choose from. So the question I have for you all is, which prompt follows prompting best practices that I just mentioned? Prompt 1, enter a 1 in the chat for prompt 1. We're asking the model to summarize this article, and then we insert the article. Enter a 2 in the chat for prompt 2. Provide a summary of this article to be used in a blog post, and then we insert the prompt. Or insert the context. We're providing the actual context that we wanted to use.
Can you go back a slide so we can take a look at the best practices, like kind of breakdown? So summarize the article. That's very to the point. It's concise, but it's also not specific enough. It's not. So it does provide example responses. It is concise, but it's not stating something that is like specific enough. Like it's saying, I want to use it in a blog article. So I see we're getting like some mixed responses, like 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, but we're mostly seeing 2 starting to come through. And I agree. 2 looks more appropriate. If we go back to that again. And the chat thinks 2, mostly. There's a couple ones. John, what are your thoughts?
I think that the more information you give it, the better it's going to be, given the context of how you're going to use it. So, I mean, I think if you're trying to use it for a blog post, then you should say that you're going to use it for a blog post. That's just helpful information. I would want to know that.
Duan, what are your thoughts?
It's 2.
It's 2? Okay.
It's
very straight to the point.
Now, 1 does work, right? But again, like John said, we want to provide some additional context so it summarizes the post or the blog post in the manner for the results that we want. We want the right outputs. And so in order for it to generate the proper tokens that we need for our blog post, this is what we want. So 2 is going to be the best and most optimized prompt.
Nice.
Now, okay, that was fun, but I do want to go back. I wanted to kind of get the audience engaged, but I do want to go back to this real quick before I let you take over, John. Sure. So often when you're designing these best practices, you want to start with a question. Like, what is the question you want to ask? Lead with that. Be clear and concise with that question. Then another key thing that I didn't call this out, and I wanted to come back to here so I could call it out. One of the most helpful things you could do is provide examples of outputs that you expect the model to respond, or examples of a problem that you want the model to solve. Giving it examples lets it kind of contextualize, because when you send this prompt, this is actually being used for in-context learning, meaning that the model has information that has been trained on. But if you wanted to actually learn some new information, you use the prompt and provide some context. And then in that context, it learns from it and is able to solve the problem or answer your question. So optimizing your prompt is really important. Yes, I wanted to go back to that. And if you all have questions about that or any comments on how you optimize prompts or use prompts, let me know and let us know in the chat. And then from there, John, you can hop in the console.
Yeah, let's do it. So wanted to talk now a little bit about Amazon Bedrock, and it's specifically the things that you can do with it in the console. So if you've never seen this before, this is the AWS console. When you log in, you'll see a screen like this. And if you've gone to Bedrock recently, it'll say in recently visited. But if not, you can go up here to the search and type in Bedrock. That's how you get it, especially if you spell it right. That also is helpful. So once you get there, you'll see a screen much like this. One of the things that I think is really powerful about Bedrock is that it has access to all these different foundation models, many different types of models that's, may be a good fit for your use case. Maybe you need a smaller model for a very specific use case. Maybe you need a bigger model that knows a lot about a lot of things to help with the contextual background of what you're trying to solve here. So not only is there just a lot of models, there's also a lot of different tools that you can use. And we'll get through some of these, and some of these, you don't really need to know for the exam. It's more for the higher level exams, the machine learning one or the specialty exams. But things like, agents, prompt flows, which is a relatively new addition from reInvent that went GA, knowledge bases.
What's GA? Generally available?
Generally available. Thanks
Okay.
for the poke, the nudge there. That's some lingo that we often use.
It's not garden avocados, even though they are delicious. I love avocados.
Depends on the garden.
True. Depends on the garden. Speaking of gardens typically green. So hey chat, let me know if, or everyone watching, let me know if you want me to change the pink to a different color. Let us know in the comments.
We can do that in real time?
I mean, it's not gonna be real time. I have an app pulled up to change the colors.
Okay. I'll change mine too.
Okay.
If you want us to change our background colors, let us know, and we'll all figure it out together.
Dewan's frantic on the spot. Thanks.
I'll just pull up my laptop and then go from there.
We're all frantically pulling up our RGB apps.
But while you're in here, John, if you could scroll down real quick.
Please navigate me.
The left panel, the left navigation.
Left panel.
Yes. So we're talking about prompts. And for those of you that are already doing generative AI and are already leveraging prompts, one of the coolest things that's been built in Bedrock to me is prompt management. Because when you write a prompt and you optimize a prompt, you need some way to store it, right? And you may want to use it across teams. You may want to use it across applications. And one way to do this, to store, optimize, and test your prompts, is in prompt management. And I've used that. I store all my prompts there, and it's allowed me to pass them to my different applications. It's been a really good tool. I just wanted to call it out real quick.
Nice. Yeah. There's a lot of useful tools here. Really, really useful stuff that just goes beyond, hosting the models itself. That's not something you want to do.
Hey, John, you're being prompt engineered right now to go purple.
Ooh, purple. I'm already kind of purple back there, but
it's more pink.
Well, it's all okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Is that a little bit more purpley?
To me, maybe. Yeah, looks good.
A little bit.
Laura, let us know. Is that purple good? Is John's purple okay to you?
Yeah, feel free to shout out more colors and interrupt our show. We'll do this all day long. Maybe like 2 or 3 more times. So one of the things we're talking about is just Bedrock also has a console experience where you can have a chat playground, an image playground, where you can kind of test out the different models and see which one is the right fit for your use case. So one of the things that I like is to go into the chat playground, and then we have all sorts of different models here from different model providers. Amazon has Titan Text, and then there are more recent Nova models, which are really impressive. Of course, we've got Anthropic models, everything from Claude 3.5 to Sonnet, Haiku, and then Opus, which are varying different model sizes and latency from that perspective. And then pretty good models here from Cohere, Meta, and Mistral as well. You should definitely check these out. See which one is the right is a good fit for your use case. I think we should try a little bit of. Should we try the Nova Lite models?
Yes.
Want to try that one?
One thing about what he's showing with models is that when you get to the point and you're building or managing applications that have generative AI, oftentimes I talk to customers that want to use the latest and greatest, the largest model possible. That can be expensive. If you're doing the proper things like prompt engineering, retrieval augmented generation, and you really understand the task that you have, I would recommend testing out smaller, more lightweight models. They're going to save on costs, and oftentimes they're going to be a lot faster, and they're even capable, right? If you find the light, like Haiku is very fast, is lightweight, and it is cheaper, and it can perform extremely well for most use cases that I've seen. If it has enough context and all of that good stuff. What about you? What have you seen, John?
I've seen that exact same thing with customers that I work with, is that they always want to try the biggest, the latest and greatest, the one that performs the best in terms of everybody likes to rate models these days and see which one is better than others. But so much of the time, the Haiku models, the light models perform just as well as the huge foundation models for what they're trying to do. And there's always a trade-off, right? And the trade-off here is going to be cost. So you got to really kind of think about the full spectrum of what you're trying to accomplish, and get the right hammer for the job, if you will. The right tool for the job that fits.
Speaking of hammers and tools, we're over here playing with lights, and Dewan like somehow shut off his camera. Like,
I noticed that somebody requested a black light, and just
I see gray. So maybe that's Dewan's attempt at doing gray.
I'm gonna go to green.
Yeah, I saw lime green. I'm gonna do lime green.
Okay. I don't mind this, actually. This is now that I have the app up, I
There
can
it
just
is.
do it whenever I want.
Is that more like lime green? Dewan's throwing up the classic cam. I see that.
Cool.
It's all good, man.
One of the things, and this is real. Earlier today, I was trying to think of a workflow that I could add to my day-to-day life here, where I can summarize call transactions or transcriptions, and then use Bedrock to email me a transcription of a video call, or just a phone call that I had for meetings, interviews, things like that. Let me pop this blog into the chat so that our friends can disseminate that out. But this is a really cool generative AI solution where you drop a recording in an S3 bucket, and then a step function workflow happens where it transcribes the call. So it takes it from audio to text, and then Bedrock finds any PII, personal identifiable information, redacts it, and then sends you a summary through Amazon SNS, Simple Notification Service, back to the recipient. And so what I wanted to do, given the example that we just had, I was wondering if we could maybe summarize this blog post in a chat. And this is actually a pretty long blog post, but let's see if we can, what was the prompt from before?
Oh yeah, use the following text to, summarize the following text in the style of a blog post, I think is what it said.
Summarize
provide
the
a summary. No,
blog.
Provide a summary of this article to be used in a blog post.
It is a blog post. Provide a summary of the following blog in the style of Will Ferrell. Is that what you said?
In the style of a 5-year-old.
A 5-year-old.
Yes.
In the style, so a 5-year-old could understand it.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
Sure.
Yeah.
Explain the following article to me like I'm 5.
Cool. So we've got the article here. All right. I'm battling with the scroll. But here, so imagine you have lots of fun stories from your day, like talking to friends, playing games, listening to songs. So this is good. It's there's a cool way to help with that. There's a special machines that can listen to your stories and then turn them into written words really fast. They can even make short and simple versions of your stories so that you don't even have to read anything again. And guess what? They are really good at making sure they don't write down things that are private and shouldn't be shared. Very essential. Here's how it works. So this is, a really good summary of this blog that is concise. It's definitely not as long as the blog post that we saw, but it has everything that the solution has. So,
but all of this is like powered by large language models, and like I don't really understand what a large language model is. So, can one of you tell me about that?
You don't. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to pass it over to you.
You don't understand what a large language model is.
Like the challenges with them. Well, I know like what it is, but what are some of the challenges of working with like a large language model?
Okay.
Or limitations?
I'm gonna drive real quick.
Do it.
Okay. When we talk about some of the challenges with large language models or LLMs or foundation models, which I want to kind of clarify this. When we talk about foundation models, there's something called base models. And base models are the models that are pre-trained and they haven't been trained on being an assistant. And oftentimes these models are highly capable to perform tasks, but you can still customize them. And so when we are using a model, oftentimes we're using a model that comes to AWS that has been trained to be an assistant, right, to perform a task. But with that, there are some challenges with that. Like for example, it may lack domain knowledge. If you're in the medical field and you are in a particular industry or you are dealing with some really proprietary data, it may not have any knowledge in the model itself of that data. Another challenge is temporal awareness. It can't smell the air, right? It can't taste chocolate on Valentine's Day. It's not able to do that, right? So it has no form of temporal awareness if you ask it to look outside and see the weather. Now, multimodal models do have vision. So we can kind of take a picture and give it to a model and provide it data, but that's solving the problem that we have. That's solving the challenge. But inherently, it doesn't have those capabilities. Another challenge is if I ask it who won the big game last night, right now in a foundation model, it's not going to be able to give us that answer because of something called a training cutoff date. Meaning, once we have this large corpus of data and we train a model, well, that data set that we have has a particular date that we say, okay, we're not going to collect any more data after this date. Boom. Now we take that data after that date and we actually train the model. And so whatever comes out on the other end of that training that we utilize as a chat assistant, it's not going to have recollection of any new information. So that's another challenge. Now, one huge challenge that we all have heard about is something called hallucinations. And we spoke about it before. But the thing about hallucinations is that they are a challenge in your applications, but they're not inherently bad when it comes to a model, meaning that the model may make something up if it doesn't have enough context of enough information, and just for reasons that we really don't understand why it makes up things sometimes. But the hallucinations are because the model has a ton of information, a ton of knowledge. That's like all the information that you've had from childhood to now. If you try to recall a lot of that information, you may not recall all of the information exactly how it happened, right?
Mhm.
The models are taking data or taking training data and they're making predictions, probability. This is probably right? But they're doing it at a very high mathematical level. And sometimes they do get things wrong, but they have improved a lot, because when I mentioned that post training after the model has been pre-trained, there are people that actually sit down and they write out the questions that we ask a model. Every question that you pretty much ask a model, that has been written down or given to these reviewers or these labelers. They are labelers. They label these questions and then they provide an answer in the way the model should respond. So yes, it's making a prediction, but it has seen the question and it has seen the answer, right? And if it has not seen that, it's going to try to predict based off the mathematical probability on how to answer. Now, the last thing that I'll cover is going to be around privacy and security. Models are a big challenge around models is around the securing the model itself, right? If you're fine tuning a model and it has an understanding of your business logic, well, you need to protect that API endpoint, right? So you actually need to secure the model itself. Well, what about the data that goes into the model and comes out to the model? You may want to put some guardrails around that to ensure that the model's not saying anything that it shouldn't say, and it's not outputting any data. Let's say it has security account numbers or something that's been trained in the model just because it's secret or private to your organization, but you don't want your customers getting this information. So you put guardrails to mask that information or protect that information. There's a lot we can cover here. We'll cover those in future. I believe week 4, we'll cover some of that around guardrails and security, but this is just a high level, some of the challenge of LLMs. I could go all day. There's a lot of challenges that you have to overcome when you're building these applications. It's really fun, but it can become really challenging. But there are solutions that are being built every day to help us overcome these.
Now we have a question for everyone because we just kind of talked about it, but hallucination, not really a question, it's like a statement. Is it true or false? Because now that we understand what hallucinations are, and that a hallucination, wow, I'm stuttering, a hallucination is a challenge of large language models. Let's read the statement. Hallucinations are a known limitation of generative AI models where they can produce false or inaccurate information. I call that confidently incorrect to humans, because you can say something that's like, oh yeah, this is exactly a thing. This is exactly how it works. And you do it. And it's like, oh, that's not what I meant. Or that's not actually how it works. It's like, that's a hallucination, right? From a human context.
It's loosely related to faking it until you make it. Fake it till you make it.
Oh gosh, it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
All right. So I say 1, 1, 1, 1, true. And the correct answer is true.
True.
All right. Hallucinations are a significant disadvantage of generative AI, where models can generate plausible but incorrect or fabricated information. So it's confidently incorrect, essentially.
Confidently incorrect.
Rumor mills, that's how they get started, because like you hear something when someone's like, this is exactly how it happened. and then they repeat that, and then someone else repeats it, but it sounds so real, but it's not.
It's true.
All right. What's next? So, Dewan, I think you're going to talk to, or actually, no, John, you're going to talk to us about text generation use cases.
I'm going to show a quick example of a hallucination.
Please.
Okay.
And
Go
then,
for it.
Okay, I'll do it really quick. We're going to hop in here and we're going to go to chat. And a common problem or question we ask models, and I'll go ahead and I'll ask, let's just pick, I'll pick Anthropic, and I can't pick Anthropic. So we'll pick Nova Light, right? And we'll ask it a question. This question is going to be really simple. We'll ask it, how many R's are in strawberry?
Ooh.
Now, the reason why I asked it this question, I'll explain here in a moment. Now, it says strawberry has 1 R. I'm going to ask it, are you sure?
Or look, it's a strawberry.
It spells it out and says it only has 1 R. So I'll ask it more, how many times does R occur?
Yeah.
Right? So there's a reason for this. If we take the word strawberry, there's something called a tokenizer.
Wait, hold on. It said it's in the 4th position, but STR, it's in the 3rd, yeah?
So there's an R, and there's 2 R's here.
If you go down, it says like it tries to break it down. The R appears in the 4th position.
Check this out. So if we go to, is it Vercel? So there's a Vercel app tokenizer. And if we just take a simple, I'm going to clear all this out, and we'll just put in the word strawberry inside the tokenizer. Now, remember, I mentioned that the model doesn't read characters or text. It reads something called tokens. And so when we look at the word strawberry, it has 3 tokens. These tokens are broken down into these numbers that the model actually sees, right? And so here we have 1 token. Here we have another token. And here we have another token. So the reason why the model sees 1 R is because it's looking at 1 token and sees the word R. It's not processing, it sees the letter R in 1 token. It doesn't take the whole word strawberry in a single token to be able to count. So if we're talking about using generative AI for all of your machine learning tasks, well, one of the things that is not the best at is counting because of the way tokens work. So if you ask a model to count to 1,000, you may find it says 1 1 1 1 1, or it says 1 2 3 4 5, and then it just starts giving you random numbers because of the way it processes the tokens to be able to respond, right? And so this is one of the challenges that I wanted to show and give you an example of what hallucination actually looks like in a model. And how would you solve this problem? Well, when it comes to counting, you may not want to use this solution for that unless you be able to really understand the tokens that it's going to see. So, but I'll let you go ahead and actually, I'll take that back. You can actually use it for this problem, but you may want to use code, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're talking about tools, we're talking about agents. And you code do the problem, and then the model is able to take the results from the code and give you a response. But go ahead.
No, I was. I'm glad you brought that up, and that's where we kind of see the meld between large language models and traditional agents, or things that are very trained on a specific thing like math, which could just be a Python script or a Python library in a Lambda function that the large language model references for specific things like counting or how many instances of a letter there are inside of a word. And that's kind of, I think, the exciting place that we're venturing with generative AI. It'll be really exciting to see, what comes out more recently in that.
Yeah, and I see this right here, this comment. I'm going to pull it up because we talked about tokens, and for the purpose of the exam, because that's what everyone's here for, exam preparation, for the purpose of the exam, and also just for the purpose of using AWS services, there's something known as pricing and cost. And tokens is how you pay. It's essentially how you're billed when you're using services like Amazon Bedrock. So keep that in mind. Token is payment. Actually, you not even token is payment. You pay for tokens. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Do we have time to go through the next demo, or should we give that as home fun or homework?
Let's do it as home fun, and let's talk about home fun right now.
Because I saw a comment earlier also asking, will there be a workshop today or a workshop recommendation? So Greg, yes, you're in the right spot.
And let's talk about it. So we've actually kind of been working through this Bedrock workshop. I saw that some of our chat mod friends were posting this in the chat, and I'm sure we'll get a new link there, a fresh link, so you can click on it. This is the Amazon Bedrock workshop. We've been talking a little bit about prompt engineering earlier, and this is we've been following kind of this prompt engineering piece within this Bedrock workshop. Highly recommended. We were about to talk a little bit about text generation, and this is going to be what our home fun is for over the next week, that you can learn a little bit about Bedrock and all the different technical capabilities with knowledge bases, model customization, and image and video generation, as well as agents, which is what we just talked about, which is the really kind of exciting place that Gen AI has a lot of mileage left in to do. Now, I have to go over some of the terms and conditions, some of the small print, the fine print at the bottom. You can run this in your own account using the self-paced setup here. This involves, downloading the source code, throwing in some IAM policies for security, and calling some of the Bedrock APIs. However, like we just talked about, tokens is payment, and you're going to be paying for some of this stuff. So just make sure that after you're done building everything, make sure you clean it up after. Just kind of do the steps in reverse to clean up some of this stuff, so you don't get a payment from things just kind of staying stagnant within your account. So take a look at this Bedrock workshop. It's a really good one. It's a really good foundational crash course into Bedrock, and let us know through all the different channels. You can find us on LinkedIn if you have any questions. More than happy to help you get through it.
Exactly. I'm really excited to see what everyone does with the workshop and what they think about it. Also, one more thing is I'm curious to know what you build with PartyRock, because it's such a really easy way just to get started to use generative AI. And then for sure do the workshop, because the workshop is going to be good for you to get that hands-on experience. Be aware you're going to do it in your own account, right? So you're going to get the charges from that. But use partyrock.aws. Post on LinkedIn what you build with the app. Tag myself, tag Duan, tag John, so we can engage with you and learn what you did. And I would love to highlight what I think is the most interesting one next week if you tag us. So
yeah, there's a really neat share function within PartyRock where you can kind of host your app and share it with a link. Feel free to share that link with us. Show us what you built.
Yeah, and I'm over here frantically typing. You probably hear it, John Marciniak. So I can get how many John Marciniaks are there? Dang it, John.
It's a pretty popular name.
It is a popular name.
Are you looking for my LinkedIn?
Yeah, I got it. I'm good. I got John's, I got Dewan's, I got mine. And I'm sending it over to the chat moderators, so that way hopefully they can get all the LinkedIn links to everyone across all the different platforms. Because remember, we're streaming on where? We're streaming on LinkedIn. We're streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube, AWS events, and on twitch.tv/AWS. So let us know if you build something, tag us on LinkedIn. I will speak for all three of us and say, send us a connection request, follow us, do all the things. And we will see you next week, because next week we're going to cover episode 3. And that is going to be all about applications of foundation models. So in next week's episode, we're going to review domain 3 in episode 3. And by the end of that episode, you'll understand the following task statements, because the domains are broken down into different task statements. Describe design considerations for applications that use foundation models. That's one of them. Choose effective prompt engineering techniques. That's another one. Describe the training and fine-tuning process for foundation models. That's the fourth one. And then describe methods to evaluate model performance. So those 4 task statements in domain 3 coming up next week on episode 3, Monday, February 17th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. See you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.